Hey, what's up guys? We are back for part 2 of the tier making video on all the classes for Storm Over Rivayle. Went over 5 classes already: Rune, Haven, Dragon, Blood, and Force. So if you guys missed yesterday's video, I'll link the video down below so you guys could go check that out first, and then you can come back here. So we're doing the rest of the classes. We're actually, I guess, 3 classes, but no, it's still 4. I mean, I still count neutral as a class. We're using Ryu as a neutral, by the way. So yeah, just to say it again, this is a tier making video based on the cards that are coming out of Storm Over Rivayle for each class. So it's kind of an review on all the cards coming out in the expansion. And this is not a meta prediction. I'm not predicting which decks are going to be top tier or garbage tier for the upcoming meta. I am just strictly looking at the cards that each class is getting, and based on the quality of those cards from the expansion, I'm putting them into tiers. So first off, we're going to be talking about Portal. One thing to note that Portal is losing is Artifact Duplicator, which is huge because this card was super powerful in Artifact Portal, obviously. And that's about it. They're losing Orcus as well, which I guess could be decent because she got buffed. As well was a good puppet card. But yeah, that's about Portalcraft is that they have Suresighted Lancer, which I think is going to be an insane card this meta, just because every single deck is going to be playing cards that summons those neutral amulets, like the Carrier, the Motorbike, the Steed, and Suresighted Lancer, just one play point, going to be able to destroy the buffed followers. So I think it's just something to keep in mind. Portal is the only class to have access to a card so powerful like this. The Horror Astray, I think this card is pretty slow. Like, there's a similar card like Nicola from Shadowcraft before, which was a pretty good card, but the reason why that card was good was because they had the Arcus that would kill it on play, so you would be able to really ramp up playing the Nicola a lot of times, whereas this is a lot slower. You're not going to be able to kill it immediately, so to get the 4 defense is going to take quite a long time. The evolve effect could be decent. It kind of works well with my Elemental Brink card that I revealed before. Like, the benefit you get from her after playing her a bunch of times is you get a 4 play point spell, so you have to have the extra play points to use the spell, and you get the 3 Wretches. Ideally, you're going to be playing this so that the Wretches gain Storm when you have 20 more followers destroyed, and the Wretches being 4/3s gain Storm, so you have like potentially 12 damage of burst out of 4 play points, which is pretty good. It's just that it's really slow to set up. You have to have 20 followers destroyed, and you have to have the horror stat line. I think this is going to be a better... they actually both work together in the same deck. The Gilded Aristocrat is also in card that you need 20 followers destroyed. 20 followers being destroyed, I don't think is going to work as well with artifacts. It's going to be more so with puppets, because puppets actually go into your graveyard and there's 0 cost rush followers, so it's going to be a lot easier to get a bunch of them in your graveyard. So once you have 20 followers in your graveyard, you invoke this every turn. That's something you need to keep in mind, is that if like you have 3 in your deck, you're constantly pressuring your opponent by getting this out every turn. And when he does come into play, you get a Magic Train. The Magic Train, because this card is invoked, so you're going to start your turn with all your play points, so it's going to be pretty easy to activate your Magic Train's maneuver. So if you play a 5-point follower, that follower goes away because it's now maneuvering the train, driving the train. And yeah, this card is actually a very strong maneuver card, because when he's active, you get to banish, not even destroy. You're banishing all other followers except for the Autocrat, so you get a board clear from this. It's also not banishing the card you just played to activate this card as well, so you get a huge actually get a huge tempo lead on the board with this, and you get big stats, 5/9 in stats. The Dead to Rights, if you play this card as a 7 play point, you get the Dead to Rights, and this card is a really strong spell because giving your opponent a permanent leader effect, where they're stuck on 1 play point. So if you play this like on turn 8 would be the soonest, I guess. your opponent's just always going to be at 8 play points, which might actually stop them from doing potentially like OTKs, their late game OTKs. Yeah, this spell is actually just also really good because I focus on the third effect, the leader effect, but the first two effects are also just really solid. Like, give -10 to a random enemy faller, so essentially making 0 attack. You can free trade it or kill it if you have the Horror Astray. And also banish a random enemy amulet, so you can either banish your opponent's like bikes or carriers, or against certain decks, maybe like Dragon, you could banish the Phoenix Roots, for example. So this is just a very solid spell that you could get by hard casting this guy. I think this card's a pretty good artifact support because it summons Guard Form and Strike Form Golems for you, which you wouldn't be able to get otherwise unless you played Vertex Colony for Accelerate 2. And actually, like, the Accelerate 2 Vertex Colony, you don't really like doing it. You do it when you're going first and you could play it on turn 2, but any situation other than that, it just kind of feels bad to play Vertex Colony for 2. You rather just be playing the Vertex Colony for 9 for the late game effect. So this card pulling out 2 different artifacts to add to your artifact pool, I think is really powerful. Elemental Brink, I talked about this card already in my card reveal video, so if you guys want to check that out, I'll link that down below. But yeah, I don't want to talk about this card any further. This card's not really like Float Portal actually didn't get really much support. Like, this is kind of a float support, but it's like kind of very meh. This card also could be like a float support card because of the recovering play points, but again, it's not very much to talk about. Scavenge is, I'm not sure how this card could give you a lot of card advantage, but I'm not sure how this card could be good. If you guys know what uses you would use with this, let me know in the comments. Yo-Yo Beam Girl. So you play her with artifacts, I guess. She's okay in artifacts. I don't know if she's worth playing. But you are losing like artifact duplicators and stuff, so maybe you want to be filling the void with cards like these. String Master, I think this is a very solid card for puppets, because when you play a puppet, you get 2 more into your hand. So yeah, you +1 on puppets, plus you get the puppet on your board. So I think this is a very solid 1-drop card. Again, I think, yeah, they didn't really give Artifact Portal much. They only gave this card. The rest was kind of supporting a little bit of float support, but really weak float support, and then the rest was kind of like maybe kind of like puppets. But I guess puppets and float could kind of go together well. They also got Wretch, and this card's interesting, but this card goes with float. You basically just get to keep cycling with this. But yeah, I guess like puppets and floats kind of goes together. So maybe you would be playing a float puppet deck. With your win condition being just like really good tempo and your opponent can't deal with it. But overall, I'm putting Portal in C just because they were losing Artifact Duplicator, which is huge, and they didn't get like a good artifact. They got an okay artifact card, and the rest, like, they got some puppet float support, which is okay. I'm not sure how strong it is going to be in the meta compared to other stuff though. So I put it into C tier. I think maybe it could be B. It's between B or C, but I'll just put it into C for now because I already planned it out. So next up, we're talking about Shadow. Shadow's losing Aisha, Laura, and Hades, which I guess are the 3 big cards that Shadow is losing. So Shadow's getting this legendary Gold Rush Ghost. This card is actually a really strong evolve card because you evolve him and you get 4 turns of benefits. So you get a Lurching Corpse, which is this card. If you have seen this card before, it's kind of old now. You get a Personnel Carrier. You get to draw a card and gain a Shadow and do 2 damage to an enemy leader, restore 2. So it's just a very solid evolve card. Other than that, it would be like a 2 play point 2/2. Enhance 5, summon 3 ghosts could also be a thing because Shadow actually is getting quite a few aggro cards this expansion actually. So like Shadow might be going towards more of an aggro deck. The Invincible Monster Trio, the card itself I think is like, unfortunately, it doesn't have Storm. I think if it had Storm, it would be broken though. Like, yeah, Storm would be insane. 7 play point, you get 6/6 with Rushbane Ward. Necro 15. I think you could hit Necro 15 and be happy with it because there's not many arrow cards sucking up your Necro. You're losing Hades anyway, so you don't have to be conserving Necromancy anymore. And you get another one copy of this guy out. So if you play him on turn 7, you get 2 6/6s with Rushbane Ward. It actually sounds really strong in my opinion. And then also at the end of your turn, you deal 3 damage to your leader. If you have 2 out, you're going to be doing 6 damage to the leader, which is really good burn. Last word effect is also very strong. This card is actually really strong. And also, if you guys seen my recent Neptus video, I did mention that Shadow was lacking a strong 7-drop. And this is a really strong 7-drop to be running because it has a last words effect, so it works with your Neptus if it comes out. And also, playing it on 7 is just super powerful. So I really like this card actually. Looking at it again. Great Pick Corpse. Another Burial Right card is kind of decent in activating your Dreadlord King. You also get a ghost from it. Again, like these cards randomly give you ghosts, but this is kind of like going with Shadow being a bit more aggressive now. If you evolve him, you get to destroy Faller. You probably just destroy your own ghost. So you get to free destroy an enemy Faller. Very strong Evo effect actually. Secondary effect is also good. It's just going to be replacing your carriers and your bikes. Death of the Party was a really interesting card when I first looked at it because what stuck out to me obviously was last words lose the match. But when you think about it, because your opponent can't remove this Faller, it can't be destroyed by effects. So there's no way your opponent could cheese you in any way to make you lose the match earlier. So you get 8 turns of draw a card, deal 2 damage, and gain 3 shadows in that order. So over 8 turns, you're drawing 3 cards, you're doing 6 damage to the enemy leader, and you're gaining 6 shadows for 2 play points. So it's a pretty good investment. I'm still not sure if it's good enough. Again, like, if you're playing in an aggro deck, you gain 6 damage from it for 2 play points, plus card draw and shadows to activate necromancies. So I think this card is actually very solid, and you don't have to really think about the countdown 8 too much because if you're playing this on turn 2, countdown 8 like is going to pop at turn 10, right? And usually games end by turn 10 anyways. So I don't think you actually have to worry about last words lose the match. It's only if your opponent's playing like a control deck or a or you have a really slow hand, things don't really go your way and games go stale, is when the last word is going to be relevant. But I think on average draws, the game's going to end before the countdown ends. And that's like, turn 10 is like the earliest if you play this on turn 2. You're probably playing this kind of in the mid game, maybe like turn 5 or something. So yeah, I don't think the last word really matters, honestly. What's bigger downside is actually just that this takes up a board space on your board for the whole game, which I don't like. This card is actually pretty solid as well. Accelerate 1, destroy an allied Faller. You can destroy your own ghost. You're getting a lot of free ghosts, remember? So you get to destroy a ghost for 1 play point, and you get to reanimate 3. So you could bring back like a Helios or something. So this card is actually very solid. I like this card a lot with the support that it's getting. As another Storm card, again, going with aggro Shadow kind of deck. Another card that goes with aggro Shadow, 4 play points, summon 4 ghosts. And that 4 damage could also only be 8 damage if you have Necro 10. Yeah, aggro Shadow is looking like a real thing. 3 play point, 3/3, deal 2 damage to the leader. Just like all these small chip damage cards. Sticky Fallers, just get skeletons on your boards. Get a bike. This card is also okay as well if you could sustain enough necromancy. I don't know if like there's a lot of necromancy cards, but there's not too many cards that give you shadows. Actually, that's a lie, because like Death of the Party will keep giving you shadows. Gold Rush Ghost will also give you some 1 shadow. Doesn't really matter. Overall, I think Shadow got some pretty solid cards. I wouldn't say they're strong though. I would put Shadow as okay cards, and I would think it's really close between Shadow and Blood. So I don't think the order matters too much here. I'm going to put the Shadow above Blood though, because with what Shadow already has with like Burial Rate Shadow, and the support that they're getting with more aggressive cards, I think you could build like Burial Rate Shadow with more of an aggressive playstyle and close out games quicker. So next up, Sword. They're losing Albert, but Albert wasn't really being played much anyways. But yeah, that's about it. So this is like the cover card for the expansion, Bunny and Baron. I'm not going to say cover cards are always broken, because as we've seen from Hangman, it wasn't really the case. And yeah, I think this is again another case of that, where the cover card's not actually going to be that broken. First of all, Desperado Shot I guess is pretty good, but yeah, this card's mainly... Oh, the 5.55, first of all, Faller Strike is a very strong Faller Strike. However, the Getaway Car is kind of lackluster in my opinion, because Getaway Car, to activate it, you have to play a Faller with 5 play point Storm. And I checked the card pool, and I don't... Because Albert gets rotated out, I might have missed one, but I don't think there's any 5 play point Fallers. I guess maybe except for the Lion. Yeah, except for Lion that has Storm. So it's going to be really hard to activate the maneuver for this card. But I guess if you do get the maneuver active, again, it's not even that good. I guess what you would be doing is like, because the Faller has Storm, right? So you would maneuver and crash the car into something, activate the effects, benefit from the effects, then your follower with Storm comes back and you can use that Storm follower to go face or something. But yeah, I don't see... It's really... Like, there's no followers with 5 play point Storm. I think this is a card that's going to be more relevant in the future if Swordcraft gets actual followers that have Storm that cost at least 5 play points. But Bunny and Baron itself is a decent card. It's just that it summons you a Getaway card, which is not doing anything on your board the entire game, because your deck's not running anything to activate it, except for your like one of Lion. But maybe you run 2 Lions now just to make this more active. I think this is the better legendary for Swordcraft. Tyrant, you put a Tyrant Order in your hand, which is a 0 cost spell, very nice, of course. And it essentially destroys 1 or 2 Fallers, because your opponent has to have at least 3 Fallers in play. I guess amulets count as well. So if they have an amulet, yeah, that's actually fine. If they have an amulet, then it will count. You can select the amulet, and you destroy your opponent's other stuff. And to help your opponent get more Fallers onto your board, if you play her on Enhanced 6 to get the Henchmen, which are the 3/3s, when they die, your opponent gets a Steelclad Knight, which is a 2/2. So yeah, it just helps fill up your board with like mediocre or just like meh followers, and then you can use your Tyrant's Order a lot easier. But yeah, I think this is a solid card just because of your opponent. Not even so that like you get the Henchman to give your opponent Steelclad Knights, but just having the Tyrant's Order in your hand for free, 0 cost. It's a free card into your hand, and it's a 0 cost card. And if your opponent overcommits onto their board, they're going to get punished for it. So, yeah, I think this is a very solid card. Also, in hand 6, you get free Evil, goes with Evolved Sword. Another card that goes with Evolved Sword, he has a pretty good effect. Like, he gets a free Evil, first of all, most of the time, because the condition to meet is pretty easy to hit. And he could grow pretty strong. There's no way you can self-ping it, but so if you keep trading into it, he gets bigger and bigger. But I don't know if this card is good enough to play. It's 5 play points to play him. He's not recovering any play points for you, and yeah, I don't know. It's a solid card. I just don't know if it's good enough and will fit into some more AoE. They gave Sword another AoE card. They already did this with the Enhanced 5 1 play point spell, which is not seen play in Evolved Sword at the moment. So I'm not sure if this is going to be played as well. It might be played maybe as a 2 of or 3 of. It really depends how wide people's decks are going on the board. But this is a solid card. It's a nice option to have for Sword because they don't typically have much AoEs. I don't know if they would need it though, because they have the they have the Machina. They have the machine that destroys 2 fallers from the Aliaska. They have the Aliaska guy anyways to destroy fallers, so maybe you don't need it. This card is like decent. Rally 5 is a really easy condition to hit, and you can get a free carrier or bike, which just gives you stronger board presence. So it might be played, I'm not sure. Maybe into a Rally Sword deck. I don't know if Rally Sword is going to be good. I think Evolve Sword is just going to be a strictly better deck. This card's pretty mediocre. This card, I think this card is good because you could, it's just a 1 play point. You could 1 play point, draw 2 cards. You banish a faller, which is a downside, but if you have a weak faller on the board that's just going to die anyways, or if you have some kind of token on your board, you could just remove the token, put it back in your deck. You don't have to worry about it too much. So I think this is a solid card, and extra card draw for Sword, hey, it's pretty good. More rally support. It's kind of an okay card, not very big deal. Henchman is his own card. I don't think you would be playing this card in your deck. You'd rather just be creating it as tokens from the Cursed Queen. Sword got a new ambush card, but it's just kind of a small guy. It's not going to get bigger. You could get some trades on him, but I don't think he's going to be played. Unless you're playing it in like an aggressive rally sword deck. This card could also be okay. Again, this is another card for Rally Sword. So Rally Sword actually got quite a few cards. Summon a Thief. It has 5 summon 2 Thieves, and the Thieves have the Clash to draw your card. So it's actually a decent card. I think would be played in Rally, but not Evolve. So yeah, I think Sword just overall got strong cards. It's not as strong as Dragon, but I think it's better than like the other classes below A tier. So I think Sword belongs into A because I think it just got overall strong cards, and Evolve Sword looks very promising still. And it got good support for Evolve. Now finally for the neutral class, we're losing Hoverboard Mercenary, which is a pretty good card in some decks, but from what we're seeing, like Machina stuff didn't get any support, so I don't think this card is relevant. And we're losing Zeus, so we won't be able to play like Evolve Dragon anymore, or Evolve Force, I think, which is a bigger deal at the moment. So the neutral class has been interesting the last few expansions because neutral got some really solid legendaries. We had Natural Almalcanist, and we also got the World, which were very pretty much staples in so many decks for each meta. So the neutral class is getting Lucifer, and honestly I don't think Lucifer is as good as the World and Nam, because the World and Nam, there were cards that gain you tempo, they gave you board pressure, and yeah, they gave you tempo, they gave you board pressure, they gave you card draw. His effect is still really good though, because if you do get him on the board on a really convenient turn, your opponent can't really remove him because he can't be attacked and he can't be targeted by enemy effects. So the only way that he actually gets removed from the board is through random effects, AoE effects, or if you attack with Lucifer into Fallers. His evolve effect is quite good, deals 3 damage to all enemies. It's doing face damage, it's also clearing a lot of boards. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be a neutral card where every deck is going to be jamming him in or even running him at all. In some decks, because just some decks, they don't simply evolve enough. And if you're not evolving him enough to get him to a lower cost, and a lot of times you would need free evos, because I would say you would want to evolve him, because if you use 3 evo points, he costs 7, and you play him for 7, and you can't evolve him, you kind of lose out on the tempo for the turn, and it's kind of bad. So you have to be playing him in a deck like Evolve Sword could really utilize this card well, because you could essentially make this card maybe you could probably play him for 0 sometimes, but a lot of times maybe 3 or something into the mid to late stages of the game. Dragon could play him if you're playing Ramp Dragon into a bunch of the evolve stuff. He kind of replaces your Zeus win condition. Force could also utilize him if you're playing a Control Accelerate Force, and you're getting a bunch of free evolves as well. So those are the 3 main decks and classes that I think will utilize Lucifer. And I don't know if he's going to make those decks a lot stronger than they currently are, because those are all aside from Sword, like Evolve, Dragon, Evolve, Forest were pretty weak decks. I'm not sure if this is going to make a huge difference, especially when you're losing Zeus on top of that. So yeah, I don't think this is going to be the World or Nam for this expansion. The other neutral legendary that they're getting, Ramiel, it is a neutral ramping card potentially. It's just really hard to get the ramp though when you think about it, because you have to have evolved this follower to get this ability active, and then at the end of your turn you still have to have more evils than your opponent. So like, if you're going first, you're almost never going to be able to get the ramp, just because you start off the game at 2 evil points, your opponent has 3, so you're always kind of going to be behind your opponent. And especially if you're going to be evolving her, I don't think it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to get the ramp. So this card's effect is only really going to ramp you up if you're going second, I think. And you're playing a deck that doesn't really need to utilize evils, or you get a lot of free evils, or you could recover evil points and get ahead of your opponent. Later into the game, that's when you could get a lot of evil points back, but by then the ramp doesn't really matter that much. So even though the neutral ramp card, I don't think you're really going to be ramping much from it. So overall, it's just kind of a meh card. It's like a decent it's a 2-playable 2/2. Sometimes you can ramp with it in some decks, but it's not very impactful. This is a solid 2-drop for decks that are playing all these carriers and stuff. It's also just a solid 2/2. The evolve effect is also good because you get a carrier with it from a 2-play point follower evolving, and he's also going to be able to activate his own effect, which is really nice. Very solid card actually. Embodiment of Cositis is also a very interesting card. Kind of like Ramiel, you have to have more evils than your opponent, except you don't have to evolve this card, so it's more easier to play this card. Of course, you don't have to have more evils than your opponent, but you do want to, because you get to do 2 damage to your opponent's leader, and you recover 4 play points, so it's essentially 0. The cards you're getting from it, you're probably going to choose Scion of Desire most of the time, because this is the strongest out of the 3. This card's pretty situational in my opinion. This card is also pretty situational, but if you know you have your opponent's playing like a combo deck and you're trying to discard their combo, this could work out for you. But yeah, this card I think you're taking most of the time. This card is also decent. Like, you play it for 5 on turn 5, you recover 3, so it's essentially 2 play point, 2/3, and you get to draw 2 cards. It's actually really strong, because I'm assuming you're going to be able to activate this effect. I don't see this card being played. I don't see this card being very useful. This card's kind of meh. It's like, the neutral cards this expansion, they're just giving you support for your steed, bike, and carriers. So decks that are more focused around that are probably going to be playing these neutral cards. So for the neutral class, I am putting it in B tier, because I think neutral, they got some decent stuff from. I'm not sure which decks are going to be the best at utilizing the new amulets, but they're going to be utilizing some of the neutral amulet stuff. And then as well as Lucifer could go into some decks, but overall I would say they got okay cards for neutral. There's nothing broken like the World or Nam that's going to be really strong in every single class. So I think that's why it is a B. So yeah, there's nothing that's hot garbage this expansion in my opinion, but if you guys think otherwise, make sure you comment that down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more Shadowverse content, because as the expansion comes out, I'm going to be featuring a lot of different and new decks, so you guys could check out. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Like I said, if you have any different opinions, anything you missed out on, or if you agreed with what I said, let me know in the comments. So thanks for watching, and my voice is dying, as you could tell. I'm getting pretty tired from talking for so long for both of these parts. So yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.